8. The Olympia. The Olympia was a commercial ship that sailed under a Cyprus flag in the late 1970s and early 1980s. In February 1980, it got caught up in a storm with strong winds and high waves in the Aegean Sea. The captain tried to reach shelter near the coast of Amorgos, a Greek island in the Cyclades, but failed to anchor the ship correctly. The Olympia soon ran aground on the rocks of a small bay called Livero, near the Kalotarissita beach. The men on board managed to abandon ship safely somehow, and no one was hurt. But the vessel was badly damaged and could not be salvaged in the end. A tugboat tried to pull it out of the bay, but had no success. The Olympia stayed firmly stuck on shore, slowly rusting away over the years. The shipwreck eventually became a famous landmark and attraction on Amorgos, especially after it was featured in Luc Besson's film, The Big Blue, back in 1988. The movie was about two freedivers who competed against each other to reach the deepest points of the ocean. Some scenes were shot on Amorgos, including the shipwreck and the nearby beach. The film made Amorgos more popular among tourists and divers who wanted to see the beautiful scenery and underwater world of the island for themselves. The Olympia shipwreck is still visible today, although it's gradually falling apart piece by piece. It is not safe to swim or dive near it, since there are sharp edges and rusted metal that can cause injuries. But it is possible to admire it from a distance. 7. The Desdemona Shipwreck. The Desdemona was a cargo ship that traveled along the coast of Argentina, transporting goods from port to port. On one cold winter morning in 1983, the ship ran aground on a sandbar near Cabo San Pablo, a cape at the southernmost tip of the Tierra del Fuego. The boat wasn't able to free itself from the shallow water and was eventually abandoned altogether by its crew and owners. The ship stayed stranded on the beach for 3 years, until a fierce storm in 1986 caused it to tilt and partially sink down into the sea. The Desdemona quickly became a permanent fixture on the landscape, attracting visitors and photographers who marveled at its imposing presence. Desdemona still holds its cargo full of hundreds of cement bags, which have hardened over time and now look like mummies inside the hull. The ship's rusty exterior contrasts with the blue sky and the green hills surrounding it. The wreck is a testament to the power of nature. The Desdemona wreck is also shrouded in mystery. Some say the ship was deliberately grounded by its owners to cash out insurance money. Others say the ship is haunted by ghosts or cursed pirates. No one knows for sure what happened to the Desdemona or why it ran aground on the shores of Cabo San Pablo. 6. Emily, the Flying Boat. During World War II, the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service conducted several maritime patrols and bombing operations with the Kawanishi H-8K flying boat. For its time, it was one of the largest and most advanced seaplanes, capable of carrying 4 250-kilogram, 551-pound bombs and flying over 4,000 kilometers, 2,485 miles without stopping to refuel. It was referred to by the Allies through the name Emily. One of the most daring missions involving the H-8K was Operation K, a second raid on Pearl Harbor that happened on March 4th, 1942. 2 H-8Ks flew from the Marshall Islands to a remote atoll named French Frigate Shoals, where they refueled from hidden submarines. They then flew over Oahu with the goal of bombing the naval base and causing panic among the locals. But the attack failed, since one plane missed its target and the other dropped its bombs in the sea due to heavy cloud cover. Both aircraft were able to make a safe return to their home bases. One of the H-8Ks that participated in Operation K was later abandoned in the Philippines, where it rests to this day. The plane was brought to Coron Island in the late 1990s by a businessman who wanted to use it for scenic flights, But the plane never took off because of technical and financial issues, and was left to rot in the secluded bay. The abandoned H-8K is now a hidden gem for adventurers who are looking for something different and quirky. It is accessible only by kayak or boat and offers a unique sight of a dilapidated plane that contrasts with the turquoise sea. The abandoned H-8K is also a reminder of the history of World War II and its many secrets. 5. German Junkers. In a lake near Krager, Norway, there's a remarkable piece of aviation history. A German Junkers U-88 bomber that was ditched by its pilot back in 1942. The bomber was part of a desperate attempt to defect to Great Britain by 2 Luftwaffe airmen, who stole the plane from their base in Germany. The 88 was one of the most versatile and widely used combat aircraft during World War II. It served in multiple roles as bombers, dive bombers, night fighters, torpedo bombers, and reconnaissance aircraft. It was designed in the mid-1930s to be too fast for fighters of its era to intercept it. The plane was one of the most produced combat aircraft of World War II, with over 15,000 total units built. The Junkers U-88 that landed in Krager had a remarkable story. It was flown by Willy Voss, who was trying to defect to Great Britain with an unknown companion. He stole the aircraft from a Luftwaffe training school and flew it across Denmark and Sweden into Norway. He faced many challenges along the way, like fog, low ceilings, rain, radar detection, enemy fire, and even a fuel shortage. He finally ditched the plane in Kilsfjord, a lake near Krager, on June 29, 1942. Willy was later rescued by 2 Norwegian girls who rowed to the aircraft and warmed him up in their cottage. His companion was lost in the water. He was later captured and killed by Nazis. The U-88 stayed at the bottom of the lake for almost decades until it was rediscovered by scuba divers in the 1980s. It was remarkably well preserved by the cold and oxygen-poor water in the fjord, and was also recovered by the Norwegian Armed Forces Museum in 2000. After years of planning and financing attempts, the museum restored the aircraft and displayed it as both a historical and cultural artifact. What do you think of Willy's story? Let us know in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel if you like what you've seen so far. 4. 1948 Buick Streamliner. The 1948 Norman E. Timms Buick Special Streamliner, which was one of the most notable and inventive vintage customs, was destroyed in the tragic Woolsey fire near Malibu, California. The Timms Special was notable for its swooping mid-engine style. It burnt to a crisp, along with 30 other vehicles owned by noted collector Gary Kervenny. As the fire raged north of Los Angeles, he apparently lost his whole collection, worth millions. The car, which was called the 1948 Buick Streamliner in the 1940s, was made by Norman E. Timms, who also designed and built the original Model T Ford Model A that won the Car of the Year award back in 1947. The Timms Special also won awards at the Pebble Beach and Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance, and it was even eventually transformed into a die-cast model. It was also a regular feature at Southern California vehicle events, where its odd, elegant design earned it a lot of attention. Thankfully, enough of the Timms frame escaped the flames to justify saving it. 3. Robot Parking Lot. The Autosafe Sky Park was a futuristic car park in Edinburgh that utilized robots to stack cars in a multi-story facility. It opened back in 2001 and took over cars from drivers who entered bays and scanned them, before moving them to the nearest open spot with elevators and turntables. The structure contained 600 spots and used technology found in China, Japan, and Australia. But the lot soon faced technical problems and went into receivership in 2003. One day, they simply closed the doors. The car park was closed without warning, leaving some customers unable to get their vehicles back. For over a decade, the building was empty and derelict until it was finally destroyed in 2018. During the demolition process, workers found several abandoned cars. Some of them were covered in dust and cobwebs, while others had flat tires and rusted parts. The cars included luxury models like a Fiat Uno, a Mercedes E320, a Peugeot 406, and an Aston Maestro. The mystery of why these expensive cars were abandoned has been partly solved by former customers and employees of the car park. According to them, some owners moved away or died without leaving any contact details behind, while others simply forgot about their cars or decided they weren't worth retrieving. The car park also had poor records, making it difficult to track down the owners to notify them of the closure. The abandoned cars have become a unique curiosity for people who have seen photos of them online. They've also raised questions about the viability and reliability of automated parking systems, especially when they fail unexpectedly. The Autosave Sky Park was an ambitious project that aimed to revolutionize urban parking, but it ended up as a forgotten relic that was too ambitious for its time. 2. Aston Martin DB4. In recent years, barn finds have made their way to auctions across the country. Covered in the dust of time, classic and rare finds have captivated potential buyers. And the discovery of an abandoned Aston Martin DB4 takes the concept of a barn find to the extreme. It was created on an RAF installation in Warwickshire and first popped up in England during 1913. The word luxury is basically defined by Aston Martin. Leather, wood, and the best materials were used to trim the inside. The DB4 debuted officially in 1954 and came with a high-powered engine and a gearbox designed by the most advanced auto engineers in the world. The Aston Martin DB4 was also the first production vehicle to go from 0 to 100 in less than 30 seconds. One of these incredibly opulent cars was purchased in 1960 by an unnamed American who had it delivered to the United States. One can only assume that the owner of the Aston Martin was enjoying the high life, at least for a while, since records show the car was registered in 1961. The Aston Martin was abandoned in the Massachusetts woods at some point during the early 1970s for unknown reasons. The expensive car was decaying and covered by leaves, mud, and moss. On January 18, 2017, the Aston Martin was carted off to auction with broken leather, warped wood, and unrecognizable trim. It still sold for $374,000, which is over 100 times the original purchase price. Just goes to show you that even in bad shape, everyday people could never afford an Aston Martin DB4. 1. North Carolina's abandoned buses. North Carolina has rich history and culture, and many abandoned places that tell stories of the past. Among these sites are some old buses that have been left behind by their owners. Let's look at 3 examples of abandoned buses in North Carolina and what they reveal about the state's history, creativity, and challenges. The first is an old school bus that was used as a hippie shelter in the 1970s near Asheville. The bus is now covered in graffiti and trash and is parked on private property that is sometimes open to visitors. This vehicle shows how some people in North Carolina embraced the counterculture movement during the 1970s and sought alternative lifestyles away from mainstream society. It also shows how people face difficulties like poverty, isolation, and hostility from others. Then there's a fleet of buses that were once part of a failed transportation project called the Road to Nowhere near Bryson City. The project was supposed to build a road through the Smoky Mountains National Park, but was never finished. The buses were intended to transport workers and materials, but they were abandoned at the same time as the project. They show how some people in North Carolina tried to develop the state's infrastructure and economy through ambitious projects. The last bus was actually converted into a home by an artist named Robert Mahaly near Chapel Hill. It has a colorful exterior and interior, while featuring artworks and sculptures made by Mahaly. The bus is also surrounded by other abandoned vehicles and objects Mahaly has collected over the years. It shows how some people in North Carolina choose to express their creativity and individuality through art. It also shows how these people reused and recycled materials that others simply discarded or ignored. These abandoned buses are small examples of human ingenuity. They are reminders of North Carolina's history, creativity, and challenges. Which one of these abandoned vehicles interested you the most? We'd love to hear what you have to say in our comment section down below. And as always, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss a video. We'll see you next time. Bye.